Imagine this. There's a side of masculinity no one is talking about. A side that doesn't scream, doesn't chase, doesn't try to impress. Yet it pulls people in, makes them notice you, makes them obsessively curious about you. Most men think attraction is about looks, money, or smooth words, but those are surface-level illusions. What really drives desire, what really creates magnetic pull, are traits so subtle, so powerful, most people will never see them coming. By the end of this video, you will understand the exact masculine qualities that make younger women notice you, not just casually, but in a way that stays in their mind long after you're gone. You'll discover why calmness is stronger than charm, why purpose beats persuasion, why boundaries create obsession, why quiet confidence dominates attention, and why emotional mystery makes you unforgettable. These are not tricks. These are not cheap tactics. These are principles that shift how you exist in the world, how energy around you moves, how presence itself becomes magnetic. Every moment you watch, I want you to question everything you thought you knew about attraction. Forget the superficial advice, forget the empty promises of instant results, forget the noise. This video will expose the truth: attraction isn't earned, it's felt, it's experienced. And once you understand these 5 traits, you won't just attract attention, you'll attract respect, fascination, and desire without even trying. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see yourself, how women see you, and how every interaction you have will suddenly carry weight. By the end, you'll realize that true power isn't loud, it isn't desperate, it isn't forced, it's subtle, controlled, magnetic, and it can make you unforgettable. Don't look away. This will change everything. Most men misunderstand emotional control. They think it means becoming cold, detached, or indifferent. It doesn't. Emotional self-control is not the absence of emotion, it is mastery over it. It is the ability to feel everything without allowing those feelings to dictate your behavior. And this distinction matters more than most people realize, because attraction does not respond to emotional intensity, it responds to emotional stability. When a man reacts impulsively, raises his voice, explains himself excessively, or tries to win emotional points in the moment, he may feel powerful for a second, but what he actually communicates is inner fragility. His emotions are in the driver's seat. And psychologically, that creates uncertainty. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, especially for younger women who are often navigating emotional chaos in their own lives. Instability is not exciting, it's exhausting. Now contrast that with a man who remains composed under pressure, someone who listens without interrupting, someone who can be challenged, even misunderstood, without feeling the need to defend his identity in real time. This kind of calm does something subtle but profound. It signals safety, not the boring kind of safety, but the grounded, adult kind. The kind that says, I am centered, I am not shaken by external noise. And the human nervous system is drawn to that. Psychologically speaking, emotional self-control is perceived as competence. We trust people who can regulate themselves. We defer to people who are not reactive. When a man shows restraint, he creates space. And in that space, others project depth, confidence, and authority onto him. He doesn't have to claim these qualities. They are assumed. This is why silence is often more powerful than explanation. A man who rushes to clarify every misunderstanding reveals a fear of being misjudged. A man who can allow things to breathe shows that his self-image is not dependent on immediate validation. He knows who he is, and that knowing changes how people respond to him. Younger women notice this instinctively, even if they cannot articulate it. They feel the difference between a man who reacts emotionally and a man who responds intentionally. Reaction is unconscious. Response is deliberate. Reaction says, you affect me. Response says, I choose how I engage. That choice is where power lives. Emotional self-control also means not outsourcing your emotional state to other people. If someone's attention, approval, or affection determines whether you feel confident or anxious, you are already at a disadvantage. Dependency is not romantic, it creates pressure, and pressure suffocates attraction. A grounded man does not need constant reassurance. He doesn't seek emotional regulation through others. He can enjoy connection without clinging to it. This creates a paradoxical effect. The less he needs emotionally, the more emotionally compelling he becomes. This is not about being distant or emotionally unavailable. That is another misunderstanding. Emotional self-control allows intimacy without volatility. It allows closeness without chaos. A man who can be present, attentive, and warm without becoming reactive or needy creates an experience that feels rare and memorable. There is also a philosophical dimension to this. When you master your emotions, you reclaim authorship over your life. You stop being a character reacting to the plot and become the one shaping the narrative. You are no longer pulled into unnecessary conflicts or emotional dramas. You choose where your energy goes, and energy is everything. Younger women are drawn to men whose energy feels settled, not dull. Settled, a man who does not emotionally spike and crash, a man whose presence feels consistent. This consistency builds trust at a subconscious level, and trust is the foundation of both attraction and respect. Another uncomfortable truth is that emotional volatility is often mistaken for passion. It isn't. Passion without control becomes chaos. True intensity comes from depth, not instability, from knowing you can feel deeply and still remain grounded. When you stop reacting, people start leaning in. They try to understand you. They test boundaries. They become curious. Not because you are withholding, but because you are not spilling everything impulsively. Emotional containment creates intrigue. This is why the man who stays calm during conflict often gains the upper hand without trying. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't collapse. He simply remains steady, and steadiness is rare. Developing emotional self-control is not about perfection. You will still feel anger, desire, disappointment, excitement. The difference is that these emotions pass through you instead of possessing you. You observe them. You decide how to act. That decision-making space is where masculine authority is born. And here is the final realization. The man who controls his emotions controls the tone of every interaction he enters. He sets the emotional temperature. Others adjust to him, not because he demands it, but because his inner order naturally organizes the environment around him. So ask yourself this: not how strong you appear, not how confident you sound, but how often your emotions dictate your actions. Because the moment you master that, you stop being reactive to life and start becoming someone life responds to. And that shift changes everything. Most men think purpose is something you talk about. They describe it, announce it, explain it, and wait for it to be admired. But real purpose is not loud. It doesn't need witnesses. It reveals itself through consistency, not conversation. And psychologically, this distinction is critical because attraction does not grow from what you say you're becoming. It grows from the momentum people feel when they are around you. A man without purpose feels empty even when he is surrounded by attention. He looks outward for meaning, validation, and direction. And when a man needs external approval to feel whole, it creates an invisible pressure on anyone close to him. Younger women sense this immediately. They may not label it as lack of purpose, but they feel the weight of it. It feels like expectation, like obligation, like being needed to complete someone else's life. Purpose without validation works in the opposite direction. It removes pressure. A man who is internally driven does not need anyone to fill emotional or existential gaps. His life already has shape, and when someone enters that life, they are not asked to give it meaning. They are invited to share in it. This is why ambition alone is not enough. Many men are ambitious, but restless. They chase goals to prove something, not to build something. Their drive is fueled by insecurity, not direction. And insecurity always leaks. It shows up in how quickly they talk about their plans, how easily they feel overlooked, how personally they take indifference. Purpose is quieter than ambition. Purpose gives you patience. It allows you to move forward without needing applause at every step. When a man knows where he's going, he doesn't rush to convince others. He trusts time to do that work for him. Younger women are deeply responsive to this energy, not because of age, status, or power, but because purpose creates emotional gravity. It makes a man feel solid, predictable in the best sense, not boring, but anchored. And human beings are drawn to anchors in a world that feels increasingly unstable. There is also something deeply attractive about a man who cannot be easily distracted. When your attention is not constantly available, it gains value. When your focus is protected, it becomes noticeable. A man with purpose does not disappear emotionally, but he is not endlessly accessible. His time has weight, and anything with weight commands respect. This is where many men get confused. They think being desirable means being constantly available, constantly responsive, constantly present. But psychological attraction works differently. Value increases when something is not overexposed. Purpose naturally creates that balance. You are present when it matters, absent when you must be, and that rhythm feels healthy. Purpose without validation also changes how you handle rejection or disinterest. A man who needs approval experiences rejection as a threat to his identity. A man with purpose experiences it as information. He does not collapse. He does not retaliate. He simply continues forward, and that resilience is felt. Philosophically, purpose is what frees you from emotional dependence. When your sense of meaning comes from your own values and long-term vision, other people's reactions lose their power over you. You can enjoy desire without being ruled by it. You can appreciate connection without fearing its loss. This is the kind of man who doesn't chase attention because he is busy building a life he respects. And respect for one's own life is contagious. Younger women are not attracted to men who want to be admired. They are attracted to men who are already engaged in something meaningful. There is also a subtle authority that comes from purpose, not dominance. Authority. The kind that doesn't need to be asserted. When a man's decisions are aligned with a clear internal compass, he moves differently. He speaks differently. He listens without urgency. He is not pulled into every emotional fluctuation around him. And people respond to that. They feel steadied by it. Purpose does not mean success. It does not mean wealth. It does not mean having everything figured out. It means direction. It means that your daily actions are connected to something larger than immediate pleasure or approval. That connection gives your presence depth. A man with purpose does not need to perform masculinity. He embodies it through discipline, focus, and restraint is often more impressive than display. Here is the final insight most men overlook. When your life is full, attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. And the moment attraction stops being the goal, it becomes easier, more natural, and more powerful. So instead of asking how to be desired, ask whether your life has a direction you respect. Because the man who builds something meaningful does not need to ask for attention. His path quietly demands it. And that is the kind of presence people remember long after the conversation ends. Most men think boundaries are about control, about dominance, about making sure other people don't cross the line. But true boundaries have nothing to do with controlling others. They are about governing yourself. And the moment you understand this, your entire way of relating to people changes. A man without boundaries is not kind. He is fearful. He fears losing approval, attention, or connection, so he tolerates what quietly erodes his self-respect. He laughs at disrespect. He explains away behavior that makes him uncomfortable. He stays longer than he should. And over time, this creates resentment, not just toward others, but toward himself. Psychologically, people do not respect what does not respect itself. Younger women feel this instinctively. They may enjoy the initial availability, the flexibility, the willingness to accommodate, But attraction does not grow there, it slowly fades, because unlimited access signals low value, not generosity. Strong boundaries, when expressed without bitterness, do the opposite. They communicate self-trust. A man who can calmly say no, who can disengage without hostility, who can walk away without trying to punish or persuade, demonstrates something rare: inner authority. He is not reacting emotionally, he is responding from alignment. Bitterness is what turns boundaries into walls. When a man sets limits with anger, sarcasm, or silent resentment, it reveals that the boundary came too late. It was born from frustration, not clarity, and frustration always leaks. It feels unstable. A clean boundary is different. It is quiet. It does not need explanation. It does not demand understanding. It simply exists. This is why the ability to walk away peacefully is one of the most attractive traits a man can develop. Not storming out, not disappearing dramatically, just calmly choosing distance when alignment is lost. This communicates self-worth without aggression. And that combination is deeply compelling. Younger women are used to men who escalate, men who argue, men who negotiate their standards in the hope of being chosen. When you don't do that, you disrupt expectations, and disruption creates attention. There is also a psychological principle at play here. When you don't chase resolution, you maintain your center. You do not hand your emotional balance to someone else. This forces others to meet you at your level, rather than pulling you into theirs. Boundaries also protect desire. Attraction cannot survive in an environment where everything is tolerated. Polarity requires structure. When a man knows what he accepts and what he does not, interactions gain clarity. Clarity reduces anxiety, and reduced anxiety increases emotional safety. This is where many men misunderstand kindness. They believe kindness means endless patience, endless accommodation, endless understanding. But kindness without boundaries becomes self-abandonment, and self-abandonment is never attractive. A masculine boundary is not loud, it does not lecture, it does not threaten, it simply removes access when respect is absent. This is not punishment, it is alignment. There is also something deeply philosophical here. Every time you ignore your own boundaries, you teach yourself that your needs are negotiable. Over time, this fractures your relationship with yourself. And when a man is disconnected from himself, others feel it. His words lose weight. His presence loses coherence. Boundaries restore that coherence. They make your actions congruent with your values. And congruence is felt at a nervous system level. People trust men whose behavior aligns with their standards, even when they don't agree with those standards. Younger women, in particular, respond strongly to men who do not need to win emotional battles. When you don't chase closure, when you don't insist on being understood, when you don't fight to be right, you demonstrate emotional maturity. You show that your self-worth does not depend on the outcome of one interaction. This creates a paradox. The less you try to hold on, the more respect you gain. The more calmly you let go, the more interest you generate. Because people value what does not need them to survive. Setting boundaries without bitterness also means letting go of the need to teach lessons. You are not here to correct others. You are here to live in alignment. When someone cannot meet you there, you move on. No speeches, no ultimatums, just action. And action speaks louder than explanation ever could. Here is the truth most men resist. Boundaries will cost you some connections. They will disappoint some people. They will reveal who benefits from your lack of limits. And that is not a loss. It is clarity. The man who respects himself does not fear being alone. He fears being out of alignment. And that fear is healthy. It keeps him grounded. It keeps him honest. So ask yourself this, not whether others approve of your boundaries, but whether you honor them. Because the moment you stop negotiating your self-respect, you stop needing validation from the outside. And when you no longer need validation, you become impossible to manipulate and incredibly hard to forget. Most men confuse confidence with volume. They believe being seen means being loud, being dominant means being forceful, and being respected means taking up as much space as possible. But this misunderstanding is precisely what keeps them invisible, because real confidence is not something you perform. It is something others feel in your presence. Quiet confidence begins with comfort in yourself. A man who is at ease does not rush to prove anything. He does not interrupt to assert relevance. He does not compete for attention. He allows moments of silence to exist without anxiety, and psychologically, silence is powerful. It creates space, and in that space, a man who cannot tolerate silence often reveals insecurity. He speaks to fill gaps, not to add value. He over-explains, he justifies, he tries to manage perception in real time. All of this signals the same thing: inner instability. Younger women notice this instantly, even if they cannot articulate it. It feels like nervous energy, and nervous energy repels more than it attracts. Quiet confidence works differently. It is grounded. It is observant. It listens fully before responding. And when it does speak, the words carry weight because they are not frequent. This is why fewer words often command more attention than many. There is a deep psychological reason for this. Humans associate restraint with competence. We trust people who do not need to convince us. When someone appears self-contained, we assume depth. We assume experience. We assume authority. Quiet confidence leverages this instinct without manipulation. Loud dominance, on the other hand, demands recognition. It needs to be acknowledged to survive. And anything that needs constant acknowledgement is fragile. True confidence is stable whether it is noticed or not. Younger women are not drawn to men who dominate conversations. They are drawn to men who dominate themselves. Self-regulation creates presence. Presence creates attraction. A quietly confident man does not rush to center himself in every interaction. He can let others speak without feeling diminished. He can disagree without escalating. He can lead without announcing leadership. This is the difference between power and performance. Performance seeks applause. Power does not. Another aspect of quiet confidence is the ability to remain unthreatened by others' strengths. A man who is secure does not feel challenged by intelligence, independence, or ambition in a woman. He does not shrink, nor does he try to overpower. He stays steady, and steadiness is felt as maturity. Loud dominance often comes from fear of being overlooked. Quiet confidence comes from knowing you will be seen without forcing it. This difference shapes everything, from body language to tone to timing. Notice how confident men move. Their gestures are economical. Their posture is relaxed. They do not scan the room for approval. They are already present. This presence is calming, and calm is attractive. Younger women, in particular, respond to men who do not overwhelm their emotional space. A man who speaks calmly, who does not rush intimacy, who does not flood interactions with intensity, creates room for curiosity. And curiosity is the beginning of desire. There is also a philosophical truth here. When you are comfortable being unseen, you become impossible to ignore. When you stop trying to matter, you start to matter more. This paradox is uncomfortable for men who were taught that masculinity must be asserted. But assertion is not the same as embodiment. Quiet confidence is embodiment. It is the man who does not need to correct every statement, the man who does not need to win every debate, the man who does not need to show strength through aggression. He knows strength is already evident in how he carries himself. This is why quiet confidence is often mistaken for mystery, not because the man is hiding, but because he is not revealing himself prematurely. He allows people to discover him over time. And discovery is far more engaging than disclosure. Loud dominance tries to control perception. Quiet confidence allows perception to unfold naturally, and natural perception feels authentic. The men who leave the strongest impressions are rarely the loudest in the room. They are the ones whose presence shifts the energy subtly. Conversations slow down around them. People listen more closely, not because they demand it, but because something about them invites attention. Developing quiet confidence is not about becoming passive. It is about becoming intentional, knowing when to speak, knowing when to act, knowing when to let silence do the work. Here is the final reflection. Confidence is not something you show. It is something you stop needing to show. And the moment you no longer need to prove your strength becomes undeniable. Carry yourself with that awareness. Let your presence speak before your words do. Because the man who is secure in his power never has to raise his voice to be heard. Most men believe attraction is built through complete transparency. They think the faster they reveal everything, thoughts, emotions, history, intentions, the stronger the bond will become. But human connection does not deepen through overload. It deepens through pacing. And this is where emotional mystery, when paired with consistency, becomes one of the most powerful masculine traits a man can embody. Emotional mystery is not secrecy. It is not manipulation. It is not playing games. It is the natural result of a man who is not trying to be understood immediately. He allows depth to unfold over time. He does not rush intimacy in an attempt to secure attachment. And psychologically, this creates space for curiosity. Curiosity is essential to attraction. When everything is revealed too quickly, there is nothing left to explore. The mind disengages. But when a man is emotionally present without being fully predictable, the mind stays engaged. It leans in. It wants to know more. Consistency is what keeps that curiosity from turning into anxiety. A man who is mysterious but unreliable creates confusion. Confusion feels unsafe. A man who is consistent but completely predictable creates comfort, but often loses intrigue. The balance between these two states is where attraction deepens. Younger women are especially sensitive to this balance. They have experienced emotional chaos and emotional absence. What draws them in is emotional stability with depth. A man who shows up when he says he will. A man whose words and actions align, but who does not emotionally spill himself all at once. This balance communicates emotional intelligence. It says, I am available, but I am not dependent. I am open, but I am not desperate. That combination is rare. There is also a philosophical element to emotional mystery. When a man has a rich inner life, he does not need to perform intimacy. He does not need to force connection. He allows it to grow organically. He understands that trust is built through repeated experiences, not emotional declarations. Consistency builds trust at the nervous system level. When someone knows what to expect from your behavior, their body relaxes, and relaxation is necessary for attraction to deepen. But emotional mystery keeps the mind engaged while the nervous system feels safe. This is why oversharing early often backfires. It collapses polarity. It places emotional weight on someone before they are ready to carry it. A man with emotional restraint understands timing. He reveals himself in layers, not because he is hiding, but because he respects the process. Emotional mystery also means not being emotionally reactive in predictable ways. You are not easily provoked. You are not easily flattered. You do not swing between extremes. This steadiness creates intrigue. People wonder what moves you, and that wondering keeps attention alive. At the same time, consistency means you are not emotionally erratic. You do not disappear without explanation. You do not send mixed signals. Your behavior is reliable. Your presence is stable. This allows curiosity to remain playful rather than stressful. Younger women respond strongly to this because it feels mature. It feels grounded. It feels like a man who knows himself, and self-knowledge is deeply attractive. Another important aspect is that emotional mystery protects your self-respect. When you reveal everything too quickly, you give away leverage before trust is established. Emotional pacing allows you to observe as much as you reveal. It creates balance. This does not mean withholding affection or warmth. A man can be kind, attentive, and emotionally available without exposing his entire emotional world. He can express interest without collapsing into it. Consistency also means integrity. Your actions match your values. You do not say one thing and do another. This alignment builds credibility, and credibility amplifies mystery, because when someone trusts your consistency, they are more willing to explore your depth. Here is the paradox most men miss. The more secure you are in yourself, the less you need to be fully known. And the less you need to be fully known, the more people want to know you. Emotional mystery is not about strategy. It is about self-containment. It is about having a full inner life that does not depend on immediate external validation. And that fullness is felt. A man who lives this way does not chase emotional reactions. He allows connection to breathe. He understands that desire grows in space, not pressure. The closing truth is simple but demanding. Attraction deepens when safety and curiosity coexist. Be consistent enough to be trusted. Be deep enough to be discovered. And when you stop trying to be fully understood, you become endlessly interesting.